The iPhone 16 Pro is more complex than ever before, now with multiple buttons, hidden settings, and hidden features that new users should enable, and there's quite a lot to learn about your new phone, especially if you want to master the camera. So I want to go over all the new secret changes on the iPhone 16 Pro, and that all starts with the new camera button. Now, I'm sure if you watch Apple's presentation, you already know that you can press this camera button and it will open the camera app, and if you click it again, you can take a photo. But did you know that you can just hold this button down to quickly start recording a video? It's actually really simple to do and really fast, the fastest way possible probably to record video. This camera button is actually touch sensitive and capacitive, which means that if you do like a softer press on it, you can actually bring up more controls. Now, by default, this will bring up the zoom controls, and because it's capacitive, you can slide your finger up and down the button to zoom in and out. You can also press lightly twice to bring up more camera controls like exposure, changing the depth, camera styles, and tone. And again, you can scroll through all of these settings just by using the camera button. This is really cool, but in practice, this button can be a little uncomfortable to use if you need to scroll a lot, especially to zoom into the max range. But an easier way to do this is to just tap on the screen when those on-screen controls show up and scroll from there. You can even press this pop-out user interface to switch between all those different controls we just talked about. And I find it actually works best to use a combination of the new camera button and the good old-fashioned touchscreen controls. Now, you may not like the way this camera button works, but don't worry, there's a few settings you can change to tailor-make it for you. To do this, go to Settings, go to Camera, and on the top, you'll see a new option for camera control. Tap this, and now you can change a few settings, like changing the camera to launch with a double click instead of a single click if you're accidentally opening it all the time, or you can even change what camera app the camera control opens. For example, Instagram has been updated, so you can set Instagram to the camera button, and now when you press that camera button, it will automatically open to Instagram's camera app. You could also set this to not open any app and completely disable the camera button if you don't want to use it. Believe it or not, there's even more hidden camera control settings beyond this menu, and it's really hidden. To access these, you actually have to go into the accessibility tab in your settings. From here, you can scroll down and find a new camera control settings area. In this menu, you can completely turn off camera control, or you can choose to leave it on and just turn off the light press functionality so you don't accidentally change settings when using the camera button. You can also change the camera button light press to open with a lighter press or a firmer one. Personally, I like the lighter press setting as I find it easier to consistently open the settings menu. You can even change the double light press speed to be slower, but I find it works best on the default settings. Of course, the camera button isn't the only button that opens apps on the iPhone 16 Pro, and yes, the action button returns again. Now, even though this was on the 15 Pro, I thought I would remind a lot of new, users upgrading to this phone, because they probably didn't own a 15 Pro, that yes, you can customize this button. To do this, go to Settings and scroll down to Action button. From here, you get a really cool menu where you can change this to silent mode, to mute your phone, you can put on Do Not Disturb, you can set the flashlight, voice memo, Shazam, you can set it to translate, and so on. You can even customize it to your own specific shortcut command, so you can really set this button to open any app or perform a lot of different actions. And yes, you can even set it to be a camera button, and at first, that does sound kind of dumb considering you have a dedicated camera button right here. But you can specifically set the action button to open a certain part of the camera app, like maybe you only want to open it to the selfie mode, or maybe you just want to set it to taking videos, and then I can kind of see that working in combination. You got the action button, you set it to take a video, you got the camera button down here, it only works for the camera controls. I think that's a pretty, you got all the camera bases covered. By the way, my action button by default was set to open the camera, meaning that there were 3 buttons on the iPhone 16 Pro Max to open the camera, because the lock screen also has a camera control button literally in the bottom right next to the new camera button. Talk about redundancy. So my next tip is to change this camera control to something else. To do this, long press the lock screen, then tap Customize, then tap lock screen again, then hit the subtract button to get rid of the camera button, and then the plus button to add a new control. There's a bunch of options here to choose from, so I'll leave that up to you, but my personal favorite is to replace it with voice memos, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Now, this video has no sponsor. Well, it actually does. It's you. You, the viewer, you're the most important sponsor, and all you have to do is not buy a product or anything like that. All you have to do to help this channel out is to like the video, maybe subscribe if you like my videos, and that's all. That's all you have to do to help support the channel. So if you want to do those things, thank you so much. Appreciate all you guys from the bottom of my heart. Always appreciate you, especially during the busy iPhone season where I'm working extra hard. Normally, during most times, I'm not working hard, but during iPhone season, I am actually working a little hard. Now back to more tips. And really, the 16 Pro is mostly about new camera features. There's a lot of tips with this phone, including the ability to shoot 4K 120 frames per second for the first time. To enable this, go to Settings, go to Camera, then record video, and set this to 4K 120 frames per second. Now you can capture high resolution and high frame rate video, but the real magic of 120 frames per second video is that you can slow this footage down for slow motion, and you can do this right on your iPhone. To do this, obviously record a video in 4K 120 frames per second, then open it in the Photos app. Then press on the adjustment button down here, then on the top, press the playback speed button. Now you can slow this footage down to 50%, 25%, and 20% based on what frames per second you normally shoot your videos at, and voila, you now have a high quality 4K slow motion video. While we're here in this settings menu, I also want to tell you how to change your audio mix so you can eliminate things like background sounds and make yourself sound like you're in a professional studio. To do this, go to that same editing menu and now tap on the bottom where it says audio mix. You'll see a few options here like in frame, which reduces background sounds and focuses on the audio only in frame, or you can select studio, which tries to emulate like you're recording in a professionally sound treated room, and you can have cinematic, which can bring in sounds around you, but still make the person speaking sound more clear. And just a general tip for iPhone 16 Pro users is even without this feature, your iPhone microphones got a huge upgrade this year, and they sound really good. So this next tip is if you need to record a voiceover, or if you want to use your iPhone as a microphone for video, well, you can literally open up the Voice Memos app, tap record, hold your phone towards your mouth, and you can get really crisp sounding audio without doing anything else. All right, let's go back to the camera app to show off one of my favorite new features, and that is the ability to pause video. And it's really simple. Just record your video and you'll notice a pause button in the bottom left. Now, you can just tap that, it will pause your video, and then when you're ready to resume recording the next clip, just tap the red button in the bottom left to continue where you left off. My favorite hidden feature to enable on any new modern iPhone is anything involving haptics, because the iPhone 16 Pro has such great haptic feedback. The most obvious is the haptic keyboard, which you can find by going to Settings, then to Sound and Haptics, and then you'll see an option for keyboard feedback. Then you can toggle the haptics on for your iPhone, which makes it feel much more like typing on a real keyboard. The second thing to enable is Face ID Haptics. To do this, go to Settings, Accessibility, then to Face ID and Attention. Tap on that, then turn on Haptic on Successful Authentication. With this, anytime Face ID is successful, you get a nice satisfying tap letting you know your Face ID attempt was successful. Another hidden feature you should enable on your iPhone is vehicle motion cues, and as someone that gets motion sick in the car, this next feature has been an absolute lifesaver. To enable this, go to the accessibility menu in settings, tap on motion, then tap on show vehicle motion cues. From here, you can set this to be on, but my recommendation is to set it to automatic. From there, the iPhone will automatically detect when you're in a moving vehicle, and then it will put these dots on your screen that move along with the accelerometer in your iPhone, mimicking the motion that you are experiencing in the vehicle and thus preventing motion sickness. It's actually really clever, and if you suffer from motion sickness, this could be a huge help. All right. Back to camera tips, I'm sorry. Let's finish off with the last camera tips for your new iPhone 16 Pro, and that comes with the new 48 megapixel ultra-wide-angle camera, because by default, your iPhone just compresses that huge sensor down to a 12 megapixel picture, so what were you really paying for? However, of course, you can change that by going to Settings, then to camera, then to formats. Then from here, turn on Pro RAW and resolution control. Then select Pro Default and make sure it is on the Pro RAW Max setting, which will take 48 megapixel photos. Another bonus tip while you're here is to change JPEG lossless to JPEG-XL lossless, which is a new feature that will give you the same photo quality as regular JPEG, but will actually lower the file size from 75 megabytes on Pro RAW photos to 46 megabytes. And now when you're in the camera app, you'll see a toggle for RAW. Just tap that. And now the photos you take will be set to RAW, which means you get the highest quality 48 megapixel resolution. Now, usually Pro RAW photos look best when you do a little editing. So if you don't want to edit these photos and still want the high resolution, you can also select HIEFMAX as an image option, which will boost the resolution, and it also has a lower file size. While you're in the camera app, you'll also notice a new icon in the top right to change the undertone of photos. Tap this and you'll get a new toggle on the bottom of your screen. Here you can play around with the tones of your photos, drag it to the right to boost color, up to make it more kind of flat with more highlights, and down for more contrast to make it more moody. Then to the left to desaturate and put in less color. And basically this is just a way to change how your photos look whenever you go to take a photo. And don't be afraid to play around with this setting, because you can just tap this refresh icon on the top to reset the standard profile back to the default settings. And you can swipe through on the bottom of the screen to change some of the default tone settings with a bunch of pre-made ones. There's a lot of default options to choose here on the bottom, and they look pretty good. They really do change the look of your photos without having to do any heavy editing, and they can change the style of them quite a bit. All right, but those are my hidden features for the iPhone 16 Pro. I really hope this video helped you out, and if it did, again, please leave me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed, and thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what your favorite feature was that we covered in this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.